hard to believe that the Dead Space franchise is dead considering other games in the genre, like Resident Evil, continue. But for all intents and purposes, the franchise is dead and gone. After 3 mainline games, Visceral has moved on to bigger and better things, but that doesn't mean we can't enjoy the games that made them a huge AAA developer in the first place. Having played all 3 games, it was hard choosing one for this list, but after a short internal struggle, I decided that the original Dead Space seemed to be the best fit. Now don't get me wrong, I love the entire series. Dead Space 2 has some of the creepiest environments and goriest moments, and Dead Space 3 has cooperative play built in and more varied action. I chose the original because it maintains its horror focus throughout the entire game and never wavers from it. You also don't need to look into any of the backstory to enjoy it, and it's the most claustrophobic since it takes place entirely in tight corridors on a smaller ship, providing maximum anxiety. Dead Space at its core is a third-person survival horror action game. The simplest way to explain it is that it's Resident Evil 4 in space. There are some added tweaks to the gameplay, like a tool that lets you move objects with telekinesis or slow down time, which you use to solve puzzles or line up shots on enemies when they rush you. The telekinesis also can be used to pick up pointy objects and hurl them at enemies, to pin them to walls or even kill them. The other big difference is how you have to kill enemies. Just shooting them like in other games isn't good enough. You need to take them apart piece by piece. Luckily, since the main character, Isaac Clarke, is an engineer, his weapons consist mostly of tools designed to cut objects, and most have alternate fire modes, which you can use to switch the angle at which the weapon cuts. This gives the combat a nice bit of variety, since some enemies crawl or jump instead of walking towards you, making it far harder to chop off limbs when they're dragging on the ground behind the enemy, or that sometimes only appear when they attack. The controls are also solid, so you shouldn't have any issues after the first couple of encounters when it comes to shooting off arms and legs. Unfortunately, it might take a little bit longer getting adjusted to the camera angle, which seems to stay a little too close to the character while you play. That's a very small issue though, and one that after an hour or so you'll probably just adjust to. Last but not least, let's talk about the story, which is surprisingly good considering your character is a mute just like Gordon Freeman from Half-Life. Although keep in mind, he is not a mute in the sequels, which is another reason why I chose this game in particular. You play as Isaac Clarke, a silent engineer who is assigned to find out why a planet cracker ship called the USG Ishimura sent out a distress signal. In the beginning of the game, Isaac and his crew land on the Ishimura and shortly after are attacked by creatures called necromorphs and then separated. A desperate situation becomes even worse when the ship they arrived in is destroyed, leaving them stranded on a vessel overrun with creatures trying to kill them and seemingly no way to get home. So it's up to Isaac to find a way to rescue what's left of the crew, discover what happened to the Ishimura and its inhabitants, and somehow come up with a way to get back home. That's as basic of a synopsis as I can give without ruining the plot, and if you haven't played Dead Space yet, it's actually worth paying attention to as you play, unlike most horror games. So why did I choose this game for one of my 31 horror games for Halloween? Dead Space has amazing atmosphere and unique gameplay with the dismemberment mechanic. The plot holds up as well, even by today's standards, and there aren't that many really great space horror games. I've always loved the tagline, "In space, no one can hear you scream," and I think it's more than appropriate to use it for this game. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, click that like button and make sure you share it with your friends. And if you want to see more, make sure you subscribe as well. I also love hearing your feedback, so make sure you comment down below on the stuff that you liked and even the stuff that you didn't. So that's it. Video's over. Check out some more stuff here and I'll see you next time.